Thanks for watching another episode of Skyhook Garage. Today we're going to be working on a 2011 Volkswagen Jetta, a 2.5 liter, and we're going to be doing the spark plugs and the ignition coils. Now before we get started, I'm going to show you some tools that you're going to want to use, and that's going to make the job a little bit easier to do. So let's take a look at what we got here. All right, so first things first. These are just recommendations. I'm going to tell you what you absolutely need and some things that you can do with different tools that you're going to use to take certain parts off. It's not a very difficult job. You're going to have Torx bits here. You can use the screwdriver style. I like these super stubby guys because they're short and they get into places that the screwdriver style can't. All right, you're going to need the T25, T20 size here. Those are your two predominant sizes you're going to need, and 1/4 inch ratchet if you're going to use them, obviously. So next thing, good extension, 3/8 size extension, ratchet for the extension. You're going to need at least a 6-inch extension. You can see the base of where the spark plug is going to sit outside of the valve cover, and then you're going to need at least that much to get down to them. Don't forget 2 5/8 spark plug socket. So there's really nothing in the way of the spark plug tube once you put this in here. So some cars, you sometimes have to put the spark plug in first and then the piece down into the hole to hook the ratchet up to it. It's unnecessary in the Volkswagen. There's tons of room in there. So as long as you have at least a 6-incher, or even probably the 3-inch might be enough, but I like to get up and away from all this stuff that's near the valve cover to do this job. So I got a 12-inch one right here, work perfectly. So another thing, nice flathead screwdriver. I have a pry bar and a pick here. So what these items are going to do is the pick's going to assist me if I need to get the electrical clip off of this ignition coil here, and then also the screwdriver can help with that. Also, these aren't held in by bolts like some manufacturers make these coils. Sometimes Ford, for example, or Volvo, they have a bolt hole attached to the top of the coil, and that holds that down into the valve cover. Now, with these, they're just pushed in. There's a little rubber seal right here, and that just sits down into the valve cover. You're going to need something to get under them and pull them up. You want to be super gentle with them because they've been subdued to, heat and time and just many years under the hood of the car, so you don't want them to break when you're prying on them. So you want something, a couple different items to, try to manipulate that coil out of the valve cover. Since I'm replacing them, I'm not too worried about that, but I still don't want to break anything on the valve cover taking it off. So a couple other things you need. A good pair of hose clamp pliers. Now there is a clamp that I will show you shortly here that hooks the air tube to the mass airflow sensor that needs to stay in the vehicle. We don't need to take that off. But you need a clamp, a pair of pliers to remove said clamp. So if you have one of these, they will work. I don't prefer them, but most people have a pair of these lying around the house. I like this style, which has the wider end on here. I can get a hold of the band clamp, and it's got a pretty good reach. Or an even better tool, if you have one, is this guy right here. So this clamp, this comes off here, nice and flexible. You put it on the clamp here, see these two jaws? You'll release the tool. It'll open the tool up. As the tool opens and closes, that end of the tool on the end of the cable opens and closes. So the nice thing is, put these two on the end of the clamp. As soon as you start getting close, this tool will hold that clamp in place. Makes it a little bit easier. The clamp's pretty big, and if it snaps out of the teeth on a pair of pliers, you could catch your finger or something in there, or scare the crap out of you. Either way, it sucks. So I really like these. This gets a good grip on it, and it keeps it nice and clamped. So, good flashlight. Always handy to have. I got 2 of them here. I also got a really nice underhood light that's on the car right now. There's plenty of room, plenty of ambient light if you have it outside your garage working on it. You don't really need another flashlight, but it's always nice to have one just in case you drop something in the engine compartment or something. A couple other things that you don't necessarily need. This guy right here, nice magnetic bolt tray. Love these things. Holds on to whatever you put in it. There's not going to be a whole lot of hardware that we take off with this job, but it's always nice to have one so stuff doesn't fall down into the engine, or worst case scenario, down into the, spark plug hole. If you got a spark plug out of that would suck. Pair of gloves. It's always good to have some gloves. Keeps your hands clean. Keeps the missus happy when you're walking around the house and touching everything with your nice clean hands after you took the gloves off. Dielectric grease. Super important. So this is chemical This can itself is a pressurized can, tons of dielectric grease in here. I don't know if you can get these specifically at part stores like your Pep Boys, AutoZone, all them places, but look online for them. They're great to have because whenever you do anything electrical, you always want some dielectric grease to keep the moisture out of the connectors, keep them off the spark plugs. Down at the end of the boot here, on the connector for the coil, always a good idea to put a little bit in there. And on top of it, whenever you get the box from the parts stores, they give you a little dinky packet full of dielectric grease. It's never enough. So that's pretty much all you need. What we'll do is we're going to go into the hood of the car and start tearing things apart. All right, so they tell you to disconnect the battery whenever you do work on a car. I don't normally do that, but it's always a good idea to do that. I personally don't because I'm not going to be touching anything that's going to be coming close to the battery cables. Now, if you're doing something like an alternator or something, yeah, definitely. But something like ignition coils, the key's off, everything's off. That's up to you. They just do it as liability concerns when they're telling you to do something. So you can leave the battery connected. So what you want to do first is you want to take this boot here, 2 screws. One comes in this way, another one comes in this way. This is the T20 Torx that you're going to need to take these screws out. So we'll get them out real quick. It's going to be this guy right here. Throw them up in our tray. Get the other one. Next step is going to be this clamp right here. This is the clamp that hooks the boot from the main throttle body. There's only one, but from the throttle body boot all the way up to the mass airflow sensor. So you want to grab a hold of that clamp where the 2 jaws are. There you go. That's why you want a good pair of pliers. All right, once it's tight, I should say that. Just slide it up on the mass airflow sensor, and then you're going to release the clamp. And it's going to stay right there. Just leave that guy right there. Done with the clamp for now. So, next step is going to be removing the engine cover. So, you want to pull this boot away, make sure it's clear. Don't pull too hard, it's plastic, it can break. And all you're going to do is you got 4 points. One here, here, another one there, and there. And you're just going to gently pull up on the plastic cover. Just until those boots release. We're going to show you a trick with that and to make that not as difficult next time. So we got 3 disconnected and the 3rd one right here. 4th one, I should say. There we go. All right. So once the whole thing is loose, all right, we'll want to come back over to that tube that had the clamp on it. You're going to want to gently work that clamp off, or work that boot off, sorry. There we go. As you can see, there's the clamp, there's the tube, and then the air cover will come off as one unit. Set that down out of the way, and there's the boot that everything hooked to. So here's your ignition coils, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See if we can get a better shot on them. All right, so as you can see here, I got the 5 coils and all 5 connectors going to them. So the issue with the connectors are getting them out is a little difficult because there's a plastic tray that all the wires run into right here. So what I like to do first is I like to pull up on each of these coils and get them up just a little bit. You don't want to try to take them out. They're not going to come out without disconnecting them. There's not enough slack in the cable, but what it does is it gets the entire wiring harness here up so you can get the plugs off and clear. If you try to take the plugs off while everything's still in here, you're not going to be able to get the plugs off because this wiring harness plastic holder for the harness holds it in a groove on the valve cover. So step 1 is going to be pry up on the coils just a little bit. You can use the valve cover to try to give you a little bit of leverage. Just be gentle. Once you get them started, wiggle them a little bit and they'll pull up just like that. So do it to all 5 of them. Once they're loose, you're going to want to take this little tang right here where my thumb's at, right here, you're going to want to pry that downward and away from the connector. Now, the trick with some of these, and actually almost all Volkswagen connectors are this style, the best way to do this is to push in on the connector as far as you can go, then hold it there, and then pull on that tang with your thumb very gently. These are old and brittle. Pull on the tang, and then that'll assist you in getting that plug off. All right, we'll do it on another one here. I'll show you the same thing. So push it in, pull on the tang, and then there you go, pull it off. So it's a little bit of a trick to get them off. So we'll do that to all 5 of them. Now that's out of the way, we can pull the coils out. All right, now once that's done, spark plug socket, ratchet, extension, and just like all spark plugs normally come out, down in there, take them all out. All right, once they're all loose, most spark plug sockets have a little rubber piece down in the bottom of them that holds onto the spark plug when you put it in and out, so you're not just dropping it down the hole, and it assists you with keeping it in the spark plug so it doesn't fall off down in the engine compartment somewhere. This one obviously doesn't have one in it, and even if it has one in it, sometimes they're worn out and they don't really hold on to the spark plug too well. So a magnet's going to be necessary. Just drop it in this hole, pull them out of there real quick, and we'll be ready to start putting this thing back together. All right, so looking at these old spark plugs, everything looks pretty all right with them. I changed them once before. They doesn't look like there's anything too wrong with them. Normal wear and tear. little bit of rust action happening here on this guy, and you can see that's from moisture getting down in there. And what you can see too is it looks like a little bit of arcing happening right there, potentially, where that coil is firing on the grounding portion of the plug instead of making it all the way through out the electrode and down into the cylinder. So other than that, I replaced them once, probably about 70,000 miles ago. I got 180 on the car right now, so it's not really that bad for 70, 80,000 miles. So let's grab the new spark plugs and drop them in there. So I'm not a big fan of putting Never-Seez or thread sealant on spark plugs. I'm too concerned about it fouling out the spark tip, just in case some of it gets down in there. And on top of it, as long as the hole is sealed properly and you have one of these crush washers on there, you're not going to get any moisture down in there. Volkswagen specifically, they're not big on carbon buildup on the threads or anything like perhaps the Ford Triton motors are, so there's no real concern about leaving or leaving them bare like this. You could see these didn't give me any problems coming out, and they were only, they were 80,000 miles old, and no difference on the previous ones I put in there. So we'll get the new guys dropped in the hole, get them all tightened up, and tell you guys about dielectric grease. All right, so dielectric grease ignition coil. So a little bit down in the bottom here. Not a whole lot, just enough to keep moisture out of the tip there. And then I like to put a little bit around this seal. So just start it right there, get a little dab on there, and then work this around. So what this is going to do is dielectric grease doesn't make things connect better, it just keeps moisture away. Moisture is the enemy of electricity. So keep a little bit of dielectric grease on the seal here. We'll keep the moisture and water from going down into the spark plug tube. And a little bit down on the bottom there, we'll make sure that moisture definitely stays away from the tip, which is super important on those spark plugs. So we'll do that to all 5 of them. And again, don't want to push them all the way in. We still want to hook up this connector here. But we'll just do it to these 5. All right, now next one is do it to a little bit of dab right in the center of that connector where the contacts are. And then just take your finger and just lightly brush it into where all those contacts are. Just like with the spark plug tip, the bottom of that coil, this is going to keep moisture out of these connectors and definitely save us from having issues later. So once that's done, we'll push all the plugs back on. Make sure you hear that snap. Sometimes it's not very loud. There you go. Hopefully maybe you heard that one. All right, and then just push them all gently back into the hole. Make sure our electrical harness is back down in the groove. And then while we're here, a little bit of dielectric grease on your fingertip. Smear it on these posts for that stupid cover that fought us on the way out. Smear that on there. It's not going to hurt the rubber. It's going to get them lubed up enough that that cover is going to go back on nice and hopefully come off nice the next time we take it off. All right, once the coils are back on, plugged back in, everything's just reverse removal, and then fire it up and make sure it runs. All right, sounds good. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you'll be able to do this yourselves. Now understand that you take responsibility for anything that happens with your vehicle if you're doing this job yourself. I can't be held accountable for any damage that you cause to yourself or your vehicle. Now, although this job is not difficult, some things you might break or come across something difficult that you don't know how to do or you have a question about, definitely consult a local mechanic. And until next time, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave any questions or comments down below, and definitely stay tuned for some new episodes I got coming out, which I'm going to be doing a lot more in my 101 series. We're going to be talking about what an ignition coil is, how it works, how they fail, and also stuff like the EGR valve that you've probably heard about, and a lot of other emissions components that on a vehicle that are, people have a lot of questions about. So again, thanks for watching, and until next time.